Tonight on Currents News, the Big Apple is slowly awakening from its lockdown, but for some, it's too late.
Small businesses here in Glendale, Queens are desperate to reopen, but they say they're getting little guidance from the government. So one business owner came up with a plan of his own. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that story's ahead.
The city is recording new virus numbers that the mayor is calling extraordinary. George Floyd's brother goes before Congress. He's asking lawmakers how much a black man's life is worth. The top cop in Minneapolis is promising reform and taking action to get there.
I am immediately withdrawing from the contract negotiations with the Minneapolis Police Federation.
Plus, you'll meet a college valedictorian who's worked 3 times as hard as others for the honor. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. New York's economy is struggling to get back on its feet. The partial reopening of some places this week should be helping, but in too many cases, small businesses are still being crushed and their owners left in the dark. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story.
The front door of your man's pub in Glendale has been locked for months, and its employees locked out, jobless.
It was very emotional.
With tears in his eyes, owner Jimmy O'Reilly says it's been torture.
We need to open the backbone of New York and the backbone of America. We work too hard to go down. I'm not going down. I got a loan to keep going, and I know I can come back.
Your man's is one of the millions of small businesses in New York City that temporarily closed due to COVID-19. According to the governor's office, it's projected more than 100,000 will never open again. Jimmy is losing money by the hour.
I do 600,000 a year, maybe more. The last 3 months, I probably took in 10,000.
Like many other businesses, your man's closed its doors on March 15th, not knowing when he would open them again. And nearly 90 days later, he still doesn't know. Jimmy says he hasn't been given any guidance from the government.
We need to open. We have to open, and our officials are not giving us any timeline of when, how, anything, nothing. They're giving us nothing. Guidelines, nothing.
Not only is your man's ready to reopen, it's ready to do it safely. This is one of the many safety precautions Jimmy and his staff have been working on to make social distancing inside the bar possible.
Is marine quality plastic?
Jimmy has redesigned his entire bar in an effort to make customers feel safe. His livelihood depends on it.
That if 2 people sit here, or 1 person, and they don't know this person, no problem.
He's thought of every possible way people could come in contact with each other and built a solution.
All it is a coat stand, roll around. You can put anywhere you want. Family here, family there. Obviously, they have to come in at their own risk, but I will do my utmost best to keep it sanitary, keep it clean, keep it that they're safe.
The reopening of restaurants and bars like your man's is still weeks away, and whenever customers can return, Jimmy says social distancing will be on tap. Christine?
Jess, it's amazing to see all that work the pub has done, but what about others like it?
Jimmy said he wants all of the other small businesses around him to survive. They're all in this together. He's actually shown his model to several other small businesses for them to use.
Hopefully these businesses can get back on their feet sooner than later. Thanks, Jess. The city is seeing the lowest number of new coronavirus cases since the pandemic hit the Big Apple in March. Mayor Bill de Blasio is saying the results are an amazing statement to New Yorkers' ability to shelter in place and drive out the virus. He's even talking about opening pools this summer. The results show that only 1% of people tested for the disease were positive. 52 patients were admitted to the hospital in a single day, and 337 are in ICUs, all well below the threshold for reopening. Stay with us because Father Joseph DUTAN will be here from his parish in Bushwick. He'll be talking about reopening churches and how the crisis has touched his life deeply. That's still ahead in this newscast. Now for the latest on the killing of George Floyd, his brother going before lawmakers on Capitol Hill today for hearings on policing practices. Choking back tears, he wanted to know what a black man's life is worth. Camila Bernal has the story of the testimony and about police changes happening in Minneapolis.
A passionate plea to Congress from George Floyd's grieving brother.
He didn't deserve to die over $20. I'm asking you, is that what a black man is worth? $20? This is 2020. Enough is enough.
The congressional hearing centers on sweeping legislation introduced by Democrats to address systematic racism in policing. Republicans also considering proposals to combat racial discrimination and police brutality.
Honor George and make the necessary changes.
In Minneapolis, the city at the center of the crisis, the police chief pledges change.
American policing in this nation, we have to address the race issue head on.
The police department is immediately withdrawing from contract negotiations with the police union. Instead, outside advisors will be brought in to provide what the chief calls better transparency and more flexibility for true reform.
We don't just need a new contract with the police. We need a new compact with the police.
In addition, the department will use performance data to spot early warning signs of potential police misconduct.
We have an opportunity not only to change how we do business in terms of being peacekeepers in Minneapolis, but across this nation.
In Minneapolis, I'm Camila Bernal, Currents News.
Ahead of today's House hearing, Republican senators are pushing their ideas in response to calls for change in policing practices.
What we've been talking about here in the Senate Republican Conference is what we think is the appropriate response to the events of the last few weeks.
Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina has put together a draft proposal. It includes greater accountability for no-knock warrants and the uses of force. Democrats on the Hill want new laws they say will crack down on police brutality and make cops more accountable.
Democrats will not let this go away, and we will not rest until we achieve real reforms. Leader McConnell, let's have the debate.
The Democrat package would ban chokeholds and create a so-called National Police Misconduct Registry. They're also looking at lowering the standards to pursue criminal and civil penalties for police wrongdoing. The concrete barriers and fencing near the White House are being removed. A crane lifted the heavy blocks onto a flatbed, and Lafayette Park across the street from the Executive Mansion is being reopened. The obstacles prevented protesters from getting near the White House for several days. The National Park Service is clearing the way for large areas of the square to get back to normal. Meanwhile, the spot in Minneapolis where George Floyd died has become hallowed ground for many. Hundreds have traveled there from across the country to be part of something they hope signals change. Flowers now cover the ground where George Floyd took his last breath. A moment of silence held to remember the man whose life was taken by police and sparked an uprising around the globe.
It's not just a spectacle. It's something where you come here, you pay your respects, you understand it's a place to learn, it's a place to see what happened and honor that and learn how to move forward.
For Juliana Nazar, her trip from Brooklyn to this site was more emotional than expected, and it has caused her to call for change.
Getting police reform, spending money in different places. I think that the louder we are, the more things will change.
We need to make sure we keep the pressure on. We need to make sure that we stay out here, that the energy stays the same.
Community organizer Michael McDowell says the wheels of change are moving. He believes Minneapolis is the epicenter of the uprising and will be the city where a different type of policing will become reality.
A lot of folks are trying to adjust to how fast the change we want is actually happening.
What's happening on this site is a connection with community like never before.
While I'm standing here taking this all in, our generation and our children's generation, the world could give change.
You guys are going to see this in textbooks and in history, and this is something you need to see. So, a teaching moment on the last day of school and our 18th wedding anniversary.
For Dan and Beth Rodich, this gathering of people from all different backgrounds gives them hope that together we can force change.
I hope one day we can all sit around a table somewhere and have a great conversation and look back at today and go, we made a difference. That's really what I hope.
That feeling of hope is on that street corner where Floyd died every day as different ministries hold daily services there. There's a lot more news headed your way, including this.
After years of hard work and perseverance, a Catholic mother is now graduating at the top of her class. I'm Emily Drooby, and that is coming up.
Plus, as much as people want to return to the pews, parishioners are still fearful about heading back to church. A Brooklyn priest is here to ease your mind. And why protecting yourself from COVID-19 could sometimes actually do more harm than good. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
This year's St. Francis College co-valedictorian is someone who worked 3 times as hard as others for the honor. She not only excelled at her schoolwork, but also as a single mom who works full-time. Currents News' Emily Drooby has her story.
Alexa Rutkowska almost didn't go to college.
It was only a short time ago.
Now she's at the top of her class. Alexa is one of 2 valedictorians at St. Francis College, and she's practicing the speech she's going to give to the graduates.
Over the last 4 years here at St. Francis College, we have learned a lot.
Alexa achieved her academic accolades while successfully handling her most important job, being a single mom.
I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to work for 6 a.m. I was a barista. Then I would shoot right over to school, have class after class, participate in extracurriculars. It was a lot. I had 16-hour days, and at the end of the day, I'd have to come home, take care of my daughter, so it was a lot.
A lot indeed. In addition to her full-time barista job, the Brooklyn native was a tutor, had an internship, and worked as a teaching and research assistant, all while still taking care of her daughter. A packed schedule. Alexa didn't just persevere, she excelled, maintaining a 4.0 grade average. Now she's graduating with a master's degree in psychology.
I just have to dedicate it all to hard work and perseverance and not letting anything get in my way. Even though I would have to not sleep some nights, I would just put those extra hours in.
Alexa is Catholic and calls St. Francis Xavier in Park Slope her home parish. She says getting this top honor took a lot of persistence, organization, and really good planning. But nothing could stop her. She says anyone can achieve their dreams.
Avoid the naysayers, because there's going to be people telling you that you can't do it and it's too much, but with the right support and your perseverance and the tenacity, you'll be able to accomplish anything. I mean, look at this.
Up next for Alexa, she's applying for doctorate work in clinical psychology. She hopes to one day work in private practice. In Brooklyn Heights, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
Emily is also telling us Alexa will be sharing the big honor with another top St. Francis student. Nicole Tallarico is being recognized as co-valedictorian too. The Catholic achiever is hoping that after graduation she'll be able to go on and become a nurse. New York City's public schools could combine classroom teaching and remote learning in the new school year. That strategy is not final yet, but the school's chancellor is saying the public system must be nimble for what he calls blended learning. Elsewhere around the world, the number of coronavirus cases continues to go up. Here in the U.S., at least 9 states have seen a spike in the number of people in the hospital because of COVID-19 since Memorial Day. Tourist sites in Arizona and the Carolinas were packed for Memorial Day weekend as beaches, entertainment venues, and restaurants all started to reopen. Coronavirus has touched all of our lives in one way or another. For Father Joseph DUTAN, this pandemic hits especially hard since he lost both his father and his mentor to this virus. He joins us now from his parish, St. Brigid in Bushwick, Brooklyn, to talk more about that. And Father DUTAN, your mentor in the priesthood was Father Jorge Ortiz Garay, the first U.S. priest to pass away because of COVID. Unfortunately, not only did your spiritual father pass away, but your biological father also from coronavirus. How did you cope with such insurmountable loss?
With the grace and the hope of God, and by the prayers of the community, and also with the prayers of the family and friends. That's what really got me through in these hard moments. If it wasn't for their prayers, it was so easy for me to lose myself, easy to lose myself completely and isolate myself and not be able to help out the community. I think it was the prayers of theirs and also the family member that kept me kept me close to God as well. My relationship with the Lord as well kept me close to Him, kept me close with the community to continue ministering to them, whether it was virtually through Facebook or by answering the phone and consoling them in these hard moments, consoling them after losing Father Jorge, consoling them after them themselves have been affected by the virus, and also with my family as well, speaking with my mother, my sisters, my aunts and uncles and cousins, everybody who are also going through this hard moment about losing my father as well, who my father was very, very special to us, very special to the whole family.
Now, you're a young priest ordained just 2 years ago, and you mentioned a little bit about this. In that span, you've had this loss and are ministering during a pandemic to a parish also facing the loss of loved ones, being jobless, in some cases being undocumented. What have you learned about your ministry in this time?
I've learned a lot that I can't do it alone, that I got to put it all in God's hands at the end of the day. I've learned also to mature and grow and be more compassionate with the people, feel with the people, cry with the people. Like you said, many of our people are undocumented. Many of them are very scared. Many of them were very fearful to even go to the hospital, thinking what's going to happen to me, or do I have enough money to pay the bill? Some of them dealt with it at home, and some of them were very fortunate and it made it through. But then we had a couple who passed away at home.
So sad. Now, this week's tablet cover highlights what many Catholics around the diocese are feeling right now. They want to receive communion now. The article in the paper challenges New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's decision to allow mass protests but keep religious services restricted. As someone who has seen the toughest parts of this pandemic up close, how do you feel about churches opening up right now?
I think right now we could open up. I mean, today we actually started our opening. We opened up today. And it was very beautiful to see the people come in. But you could still see that there is some fear in their eyes. You can still see that there is still an uncertainty, whether it's still around or it is safe to come outside. I mean, from a church, they used to fill up 1,000, 300, 400, even 500 on solemnities, the church. And now you see about 90 people coming that came in today. We were only for 3 hours, but you see that there is still some fear in their eyes, that they're scared, not knowing what's going to happen.
What are they saying to you? What are the parishioners saying about how they feel about coming back to church?
Well, they're very eager. They want to come in. They want to come into the church. They want to spend a moment with the Lord. But at the same time, they're very thankful for the precautions that we took, for the proper measures that we took in getting everything that we needed, the proper distancing, and they're also very, very good to us. They're very supportive. They've been with us from the beginning. They've been walking with us from the start. And like I always tell them and remind them, we started this journey together and we're going to get through this together.
Absolutely. All right, Father DUTAN of St. Brigid's, thanks so much for joining us and good luck with your reopening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And God bless you all. Take care.
Pope Francis is taking a new step to help ease the pain of workers who are seeing their jobs destroyed by the pandemic. The Holy Father is setting up a fund for families who've lost their incomes, and he's the first donor with a contribution of $1 million. The money is earmarked for people in the Rome Diocese who are struggling to make ends meet. Francis is encouraging priests to pitch in and make a donation to the Jesus the Divine Worker Fund. Here in the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control is putting out an alert tonight after they discovered some Americans might be putting their health at risk. The trouble stems from trying to be protected against COVID-19. Mandy Gaither has the story.
We've all been told to disinfect high-touch places to help slow the spread of COVID-19. But a recent report by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says about a third of more than 500 Americans surveyed have used some kind of risky cleaning practice during this pandemic. The CDC says people have put bleach in their food, others have gargled or inhaled it, and some have washed their bodies with household cleaning and disinfectant products, none of which is recommended by the agency, but may explain the sharp increase in a number of calls to poison centers during this pandemic. In the survey, people said they were cleaning more frequently, but only about half said they really knew how to clean and disinfect their homes safely. The CDC recommends that people always read the instructions on cleaning products. When cleaning, wear gloves or other protective gear and don't mix cleaning chemicals. The CDC also said it will be important to continue efforts to better educate people on how to safely clean while they're home. I'm Mandy Gaither.
Still to come on Currents News, how a statue of Christopher Columbus ended up in a lake. Also ahead, giving love to get love, the story of an unemployed COVID-19 survivor who's volunteering his time to help make a difference. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A statue of Christopher Columbus was vandalized, torn down, and thrown into a lake in Richmond, Virginia. The park where the statue stood was the scene of a peaceful protest expressing solidarity with indigenous people on Tuesday night. But groups of rioters returned to the park later and used a rope to bring the statue down. Meanwhile, the statue of Robert E. Lee in Richmond won't be coming down anytime soon. A state judge issued a temporary block on the removal of the Confederate General's monument. A lawsuit argues the state promised to protect the statue when it annexed the land it stands on. And finally tonight, a man in D.C. got involved in the Black Lives Matter movement first as a protester. Now he picks up trash during demonstrations to show his support for the cause and his city.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
When I hear the protests, the little chants, I just follow along and I get it in my head. And they do. Thank you. Have a good day. Very busy tonight. Big crowd, bigger than I ever seen it. So I know I'm going to be here late. Initially just came to protest, and then I started seeing garbage around everywhere, and I was like, maybe I can do a little more. Excuse me, fellas, any trash over here that you can help me with? See now, the people leave gloves, leave everything. I usually show up around 3 o'clock, and I usually leave around 1 a.m. Just for one corner, we do about 30 to 50 bags. This is 55 gallons. Whew. I line them up for DCPW. Why not make it a little easier for them? Gotta have a little muscle. Unfortunately, I had to file for unemployment. This gave me free time to rethink and say, what can I do during this time? I already had COVID-19, and it was 3 weeks that I had to go through it with different types of symptoms, ups and downs. I don't want to ever experience it again, and I'm glad it's over for me now. So I feel like, okay, I can do this because maybe I'm a little immune to it now.
No justice, no peace!
I love that we're protesting, but I also feel that we should leave the city clean. When I go home each night, I said I did something for DC, a city that has adopted me and has given me a lot of love. Why not give something back? You got to give love to get love back. Thank you.
And Diego gets a lot of love from his friends who donate money so he can buy PPE, garbage bags, and cleaning supplies. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.